So without further ado, I just am so thankful to have Tanya Callender and Trista Arnold. Thank you both for being here and starting our year off right.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Dr. Muir for inviting us again. We did get to do this once before. We had a great time. And, you know, a little bit about Dr. Muir. She does deal with incontinence. She absolutely loves what she does. And so I refer as many patients to her as I possibly can, because I know that when they leave, they're going to know that they were well taken care of by someone who was passionate about what she does, which I think is so important in healthcare today. So thanks, Dr. Muir, for inviting us. My name's Tanya Callender. I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm currently an OB-GYN, but my background is mostly internal medicine, so I have a little bit of varied experience. And this is my daughter, Trista Arnold. She has a bachelor's of science in health and nutrition from the University of Houston. She is a certified health education specialist as well as a certified personal trainer. So the topics that we're talking about are near and dear to both of us, and I'm going to let Trista do her part, and I'm going to give you the handout while she's talking.
So like she said, yes, I am a certified health education specialist, and a lot of what I do is health and wellness for different employers. So I go into facilities and implement their wellness programs. So this is something I do all the time, and I'm super passionate about it, so I'm really glad to be here and go through some of this with you. So just if you're thinking about a healthy life, what does that really entail for you? What do you do to be healthy? Exercise,
water aerobics,
your preventative screenings,
we try to eat well, but
regular checkups, things like that. Those are all involved, right? So hopefully I'm going to give you some tips, probably some things you already know, but run through it again, get us started for the new year for hopefully what you can do to provide a healthy life for yourself. Now, sometimes life just happens and things happen to you that we can't control, but at least this is the part we can control, so let's make the effort to better our lives. So we're going to talk about the healthy habits for a healthy life. I'm also going to give some 6 tips to achieve optimal health, some tools and resources to keep you on track, so some different trackers and apps and computers, applications that you can use to help you, and then we will just do a recap and kind of make some trivia for you. So, what are some healthy habits? You said exercise, right? What about proper nutrition? Eating right? Yeah, absolutely. Getting your regular exercise. How many of you exercise 3 times a week? Good, that's the majority. It's also important to manage stress. A lot of people don't think that stress is that important, but it's very important for overall health. So definitely work to manage it. Adequate sleep. Very important as well. Preventative health, so getting your regular checkups, going to the doctor regularly, and being tobacco free. That includes all tobacco sources, smoking, chewing tobacco, all of the above. So all of those encompass those healthy habits for a healthy life, right? So for tip number 1, start by making SMART goals. So how many of you have goals for this year? Have you written them down? Do you know what your goals are? All right. So does anybody want to give me a goal? Would they be kind enough to share? Sure.
lose an additional 18 pounds.
Okay. That seems to be, on the number 1 list, right? For all of us. At least there's some kind of, little here, little there, exercise more, sleep more, those kinds of things. Well, we need to make SMART goals. Has anybody heard the term SMART goals before? So SMART goals are specific. You want to make sure and clearly identify what exactly you're going to accomplish. They need to be measurable. So you need to, how will you evaluate this? How will you measure it? They need to be attainable. They need to be challenging, but they still need to be within reach. They need to be realistic and time-bound. So when you're writing down a goal, you need to encompass every single one of these things. And I'm going to give you some examples here. So a traditional goal I will lose 20 pounds in 2015, right? I'll eat more fruits and vegetables. I will exercise more. They're very general, the SMART goals is I will lose 20 pounds by August 2015. Now I've set a deadline. In order to exercise more, I will go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a minimum of 30 minutes. That's even more specific, but I've timed it. So I've set my time. I know what days I'm going to go, and I know that that's going to lead me to my goal, right, by doing those things. So becoming a better version of you starts with being smart. Sounds pretty accurate, right? Tip number 2 would be eat a well-balanced meal. How many of you feel like you eat healthy most all the time? Good. There's some people that will say absolutely not, I don't even care. So that's good to have some hands raised. But nutrition is very, very important for overall health. It's crazy to think something as little as food could be so harmful to our bodies. Obviously, we have an increased rate of obesity, a huge rate. So it is a lot about what you put in your mouth. So in order to eat healthy, we should try to increase our fruits and vegetables. How many of you get 5 servings of fruits and vegetables? I had one roll of the eye, So yeah, you should be shooting for 5 servings per day. Make half of your daily grains 100% whole grain, and we'll talk about that in a second. Limit the amount of saturated fat, trans fat, and cholesterol. Increase your intake of fiber. And that does not mean that you should go get a bunch of Fiber One bars and fiber cereal and fiber that claim fiber all the time, because sometimes that's not really accurate. It's just great marketing. So be careful on that. But there should be 25 grams for women and 38 grams for men. And reduce the amount of added sugars in your diet. So when I say added sugars, what is that? What kind of foods are those? Soda, sweets, baked goods, all that kind of good stuff. But the foods we eat and the nutrients they should provide are the most important continuing environmental factors influencing our growth, development, functional abilities, and health. Very true. So this is what I was going to talk about, the whole grains. Has anybody ever seen this? Okay, so you know that they have 100% whole wheat, multigrain, 7 grain. What other grains? There's all kinds of 12 grain. I'm sure they're going to come up with 50 before too long. It just keeps going up and up. Well, if it does not have this label, it is not 100% whole grain. This is regulated by the FDA, and they can claim that they have 100% whole wheat, but that's not 100% whole grain. So when you have multigrain, you don't have the whole grain. You have several pieces of multiple grains mixed into one. So it doesn't actually give you the same health benefits as a whole grain would. So something that would be whole grain, oatmeal, whole grain bread. So really look for this. It's on there. It's just sometimes it's not always bright like this. It's very hard to miss, easy to miss sometimes. So we need to make it count. Instead of labeling foods as good or bad, think about the effects on your body. So label one good food. Say what you would consider good food. Vegetables. Okay, and what would be a bad food? Candy. Okay. So you've already labeled that those are, when you're eating them, this probably isn't the best thing I should be eating, right? Because it's been bad to me. Well, you should really just say, is this candy bar providing you with the nutrients you require for good health? So when you're sitting there looking at it, really think about it. Is this really helping me, or is this hurting me? Is it providing me with anything, or is it just kind of there? Empty calories, right?
Does satisfaction count?
I was going to say that. I knew that was going to come up. So yeah, absolutely. It's good for our mind maybe, but as far as our overall health, in moderation, we'll say that. So cravings are absolutely temporary. They do not last. And who has ever had a craving and you just felt like it took over you, that you can't control it? I know that I've had those before. So candy, going for the chocolate, going for anything sweet, greasy food, those cravings are there. And I hear that a lot. I have these awful cravings. Well, what you should be doing is you need to wait and think about the wants and the needs. Do I really need that candy bar, or do I just want it? Now, for mental satisfaction, that's different. But really think about those two things, and there you can decide, okay, maybe I really don't need this. And if you wait about 10 to 15 minutes, the craving will subside. So you will no longer have that craving, and you will make a better choice. Because when the craving sets in, it's just brain power taking over, and your mind is taking over. So you can't make the right decision. And calories are not created equal. Has anybody heard that before? Or do you think that if you have 100 calories of chips, it's the same thing as 100 calories in cookies? Is that the same? Because they're both 100 calories. So I can have, whichever one I pick, it doesn't matter because they're 100 calories. And the nutrients in it, there's nothing, that's providing you with nutrients in the cookies, right? So I'll show you. Those two things are not equal. They're not. Even though they might have 100 calories each. Because what do you think about when you talk about weight loss? It's about calories, right? Everything is about calories. We're all talking about calories. Well, if I had 100 calories of apples and 100 calories in this cupcake, my mind would tell me to go to the cupcake, right? But they're not created equal. The way they break down in our body, the way that they affect us, obviously the way our goals, the outcome of our goals will be, we can't reach them if we go for 100 calories all the time of chocolate or of cake or anything like that. So tip number 3 would be exercise regularly, which most of you sound like you do. You raised your hands at least. So obviously there are many benefits to exercise. There's so many studies coming out that exercise is very crucial to our health. It helps us control our weight, prevents health conditions and diseases. It improves our mood, energy, gives us better sleep, improves sexual response, and improves longevity. So how many of you, since you started working out, or is working out a new thing for you, exercising? Or is this something you've done forever? Forever? Does it make you feel good? What happens when you don't exercise? So say you're sick for like a week and you don't feel good, right? Bones ache. Stress, overall stress. Yeah, it puts a lot of stress on your body when you're not doing that. So really trying to get in exercise is important. So how many minutes of physical activity is suggested per week? Here's my options. 120 minutes, 150 minutes, 75, or 600 minutes. A week.
Oh, a week. You said 30
I might
minutes 3 times a week.
Close. You're getting there. It's both B and C. So I'm going to explain that. 150 minutes is 30 minutes 5 times a week. 5 times a week. 75 minutes, and that's of moderate exercise. So 75 minutes is the vigorous intensity, the really hard stuff. You only need to do 75 minutes per week for that. So what do you consider moderate activity? What's moderate for you guys? Walking. Main thing is you just want to get your heart rate up, keep consistent with that. And then your vigorous would be that you are just laid out on the floor exhausted, right? Now you don't have to do all that. Just get in the moderate exercise, that's all we ask. So 150 minutes moderate intensity aerobic or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity aerobic activity. 10 minutes at a time is fine. So if you're talking about 30 minutes 5 times a week, you can do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at lunch, 10 minutes in the evening. Doesn't matter. It's all 30, it equals 30 minutes. So you can do that, that's fine. If you need to break up 15 and 15, time, we don't have much time these days, so breaking it up is absolutely fine, as long as you're getting it in. And keep it fun and fresh by trying a new activity every day. So maybe one day you'll do Zumba, the next day you'll do cycling, yoga. Mix it up, have fun with it, because if you constantly just do the same thing, you get really bored, and you want to give up most of the time, right? I know that, especially if it's really hard, if it's something that's super challenging, you might give up a lot easier than you would if you were doing something you really enjoy. You'll want to go back. So tip 4 would be to manage stress. Anybody want to explain what they feel stressed? Like what happens to your body when you feel stressed, when you're stressed out? Anything?
Cravings.
Food cravings, okay. Anyone else like sweat or get really hot and flustered? Tense muscles? Yeah, I know that I think when I'm stressed I do this all the time. That's what I feel like anyway, because it's 100 pounds sitting on my chest. But that's a simple physical reaction that we get to stress. So I know we've all felt like this at some point, right? Yeah. Stress is defined as the brain's response to any demand, so it's known as your flight or fight response, and normally the body will go back to normal after the stress is gone, so the demand is gone. Common stressors would be your routine stress, work, family, daily responsibilities. Sudden negative changes, so illness, divorce, job loss, and then traumatic stress, major accidents, natural disaster, death in the family. All of those things cause stress, right? They may not be perceived the same way. We may not feel a death in the family the same way we felt just normal family. So not all stress is bad. Some people do need stress in their life, but chronic stress can lead to serious health problems, heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, depression, all those things that could lead to further problems. And it is definitely perceived differently among individuals, and coping is way different for everyone. So I may think that relaxation techniques are great, and you might find that exercise is great. So it doesn't always work the same. So what are some negative coping mechanisms? I hear this a lot, the first one especially. Alcohol, right? There are a lot of people that use alcohol to manage their stress. Drug use, negative eating patterns, so overeating or not eating at all, skipping meals. That's common in stress. And emotional outbursts, so taking your anger out on someone else that you didn't really mean to, but you're just so stressed up, you're so caught up in it that you just yell at, your husband or whatever it may be. They might, but that's not the right way to handle things, right? So some positive coping mechanisms is recognize your feelings. Identify the triggers that are causing those stressful events, that stress for you. Proper nutrition. It is very important to eat our way to good health, and that means in stress too. When we eat bad, our bodies are stressed out because it has to work really, really hard. So proper nutrition is important. Relaxation techniques, so yoga, 5 minutes deep breathing, just complete silence. Just focus on yourself and what's going on. And support groups or professional help. It is absolutely okay to reach out for help because that's what we're here for, right? I know that a lot of people don't like admitting that they have a lot of stress, but it's necessary to talk to someone. Sometimes, your husband can't help you out. He's just making it worse, which is probably true, huh? So I'm actually going to pass it over to Tanya, and she's going to talk about sleep and preventative health.
So I want to discuss the importance of sleep. So, I think as we get older, it probably is a little more difficult to sleep at times, but sleep is really, really important. And especially, lack of sleep is more than just saying, oh, I'm going to have a really hard day tomorrow, and I don't know how I'm going to make it through my shift, but it really can lead to damaging effects on your health over time. So for people who are diabetic, a lack of sleep can actually make their sugar control worse, or it can actually lead to diabetes because when you get tired, what do? You grab for the food. You generally grab for things like sweets. You want the thing that's going to get in your bloodstream the fastest and give you more energy. So it can lead to diabetes, but as well as people who are a diabetic, when their sleep is out of whack, their sugars tend to be more out of whack also. And people who actually sleep well can control their sugars better. So it's very important that we're getting enough sleep, even to prevent diabetes or to control our diabetes. It can lead to heart disease. I'm sure everyone has heard of sleep apnea. So sleep apnea is just a disordered sleep pattern, disordered breathing when you're sleeping. And so for people who have sleep apnea, and especially if it's undiagnosed, then they can have more heart disease such as arrhythmias. They can have more high blood pressure, and it can also, if you have high blood pressure, it can lead to stroke, and so it also plays a big part on your heart health as well. So if someone tells you that you snore really bad, or if you're really tired during the day, but you go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, you don't get up till 7, and you're feeling like, why am I so tired? One of the things to examine would be to have a sleep study done to see if maybe you have this sleep apnea. Of course, obesity, just kind of like we've already said, when you get tired, what do? You look for something to eat. I'm the worst about it, and I'm always getting something sweet to eat, especially, when I used to work graveyards. You eat all night long just to kind of stay awake. So it actually can lead to obesity. And people who don't sleep well, it actually can have increased glucose production, as well as you don't dispose of your glucose the same for people who do sleep better. And there was an interesting study that I thought was really interesting. It came out in the Journal of Pediatrics in August that said teenagers who sleep 6 hours or less a night by the age of 21 would be obese. I think that's pretty significant. So it is important for kids to sleep. You know, they only want to sleep, you know, on Monday morning when they're supposed to go to school, but they do need their sleep. And of course, depression. So people who are depressed often will sleep more, but people who don't sleep should also be evaluated for depression, just to make sure that this isn't a component of what's going on. And for teens, they need 9 to 10 hours a day, and for adults, they say 7 to 8 hours a day. So things that you can do to help your sleep, they say don't drink caffeine before you go to bed, don't use alcohol definitely as a means for sleeping. Even though it makes you go to sleep, you don't stay asleep generally. Relax before going to bed, don't use the bedroom as a place to discuss all the problems of the day. Use it as this quiet place that's dark to rest. Of course, don't eat too late at night, because that can make you feel too full and not sleep well. And also, don't go to bed hungry, because then you don't sleep as well either, because you're thinking about food. Try not to take naps. Some people say warm baths. If you take a really nice warm bath after you get in bed, when your body cools down, then you sleep better as well. Some people say warm milk. I don't know if that's just a wives' tale, but I think it's worth a try. And then if all else fails, call your provider and get something for sleep. There are plenty of sleep medicines out there. Some of them had bad side effects, some of them work really well. So definitely can try sleep medicines. And then as far as tip 6, engage in preventative health screenings. And of course, this is the thing that I like the most. So you should have your annual checkups. Get these all up here. Of course, we're going to be looking for obesity, the problems associated with obesity, with overweight. Get your blood pressure checked. Certainly want to do depression screenings once a year. Should get your eyes checked every year. Get your hearing checked. Probably very few people actually get their hearing checked like they should. And of course, should have a dental exam once a year. So, you know, we're going to check your cholesterol once a year. We're going to check you for heart disease, screen for diabetes, check your cholesterol, and, you know, then do weight screenings as well. For women, cervical screenings, we start pap smears at 21. It goes, you know, different intervals throughout your life. Mammograms starting at 40. For men, testicular exams as a young man, for prostate screening for older men. And then, you know, colon screening starting at age 50. Bone density usually by 60 to 65, in some cases sooner. So you know, there are some variations in screening exams, but yes, these are kind of the recommendations that we try and follow. And of course, then for falls, you know, we want to make sure that you haven't had a fall recently. Is it a fall because your dog ran out in front of you, or is it a fall because, you know, I don't know why I fell, I just fell? And if falls are a problem, then we want to make sure you're safe, because falls certainly can have devastating effects, you know, and in an older person, falls can be very, very bad. So, and then we talk about vaccines as far as prevention. Of course, everybody knows about the childhood vaccines. The HPV vaccine is the virus for cervical cancer, and we recommend that all boys and girls get that now. And this is, a lot of these are going to apply to your grandchildren, so you can tell your grandchildren, your children, if they haven't done these, they should get them done. Zostavax, which is a shingles vaccine, starting at age 60, and then pneumonia shot at 65. So, and regardless of whether you've had shingles or not in the past, or whether or not you had chickenpox, you should get your shingles vaccine and pneumonia shot at 65. Go ahead.
How many times do you get a pneumonia shot? Just once in your life?
You know, they kind of change that from time to time as well, but now they're saying pretty much if you have a particular vaccine that you can get at one time in your life. If you've had another vaccine, they say you might get that and then repeat another one in like a year later. It kind of depends. There's a couple different vaccines on the market, So it kind of depends on which vaccine you get. But generally, it's once in your life. But I've been doing this a while, and for a while we were repeating it every 10 years. But I think the recommendations now are basically one time in your life, starting at 65. Again, unless there are other health conditions, you don't have a spleen, then you get it sooner. Of course, then safety concerns, avoiding accidents, wear your seatbelt. Don't text and drive, try not to be a distracted driver. Drinking and driving, of course, these are most of the things I talk about with my young kids. Practice safe sex, most of them don't listen to me. Wear your sunscreen. Tattoos and piercings, if you're going to get a tattoo, that's fine, but make sure you go to some place that is sterile. Again, like Trista has said, to avoidance of tobacco in all forms. So, those are the main things that we want to talk about. There are some resources up here that you can look into. For nutrition, the USDA Dietary Guidelines for Americans, MyFitnessPal is probably an app that most everybody, you have that.
It's a great app.
It's a great app. And a lot of the devices these days will connect directly with your FitnessPal. So that's really great. Exercise, there's a video on about what counts as aerobic activity, which is kind of what Trista talked about. Those guidelines are not like just, if you do 30 minutes a day, this is good enough, or if you do 15 minutes a day, this is good enough. But it really defines how much exercise is good. And then for stress, American Institute of Stress and how to deal with stress. And as far as tobacco, then the smokefree.gov, as well as UTMB has a commit to quit program.
The other thing I wanted to mention as far as resources is you should also look to see if your insurance will provide any of these resources for you. There are a lot of insurance companies that are coming into the wellness world and offering nutrition counseling, reimbursements for all those things. A lot of them will offer tobacco cessation programs as well. So it's something you'd have to look into because each insurance is different.
And most of the insurances these days are requesting that you get an annual preventative exam, and they will pay for your preventative wellness. I get a lot of people who come and bring me a paper and say, if I come to the doctor and I fill out this, and it's a very simple form, they're going to get $150 off their insurance. Or so there's definitely some benefits of going these days.
A lot of the supplemental insurances will pay for you to join the Y. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because they have that silver sneakers.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
That's 3
Blue
days
Cross
a week.
Blue Shield has
Yeah,
that.
and they will pay for that because it's part of their wellness program.
Yeah, definitely look into it. You can call the number on the back of your card if you don't know, and they will explain those things to you. Because I myself get a lot for just participating in wellness activities. I get about $1,200 a year back into my pay flex.
Wow.
So here's some fun tools that we think, if you're a tech geek, there's some fun things out there. So this thing is called an Orange Chef Prep Pad. So it's a little pad that actually you set on your countertop, and you set your food on it, and you take a picture of it with your phone. And that will actually kind of calculate your calories. So I read up on that a little bit. There's some mixed reviews on it, but the guy definitely said that by doing this Chef Prep Pad, that you were more conscious of what you were eating, and it did make a difference. There's some question of, exactly how many calories, is it completely accurate? But it's accurate enough that it gives you an idea of where you are with your daily calories, as well as, it makes you think about it. It's kind of a fun way to count what you're eating in a
So
day.
they don't want us to think anymore.
Well, I think they've made labels so confusing part of the time that they're making it easier.
Or we think the wrong things.
Right.
A lot of people will think if they're eating something like a McDonald's, that's only 500 calories. Well, it's probably like 1,200 calories.
Well, myfitnesspal.com will tell you.
Yeah.
Right.
They have a lot of the foods that we eat every day on there with not only the calories, the fat, the protein, the sugar, the sodium.
Potassium in there as well.
I don't think they have potassium.
You don't think so,
Potassium's not in
potassium?
there.
Okay.
I think it's just calories, sugar, protein, fat.
And they
Yeah.
They actually have it to where, because I use it for all of my clients, that you can actually print that out. You can print out a view of day, week, month. And so I actually, every week when I meet with them, I print that out and see where they are. And we'll go through it and say, maybe we shouldn't have had that. Maybe we shouldn't have this.
So for smoking cessation, Quitbit.
So it's like a lighter. And, you know, every time you light up a cigarette, it's counting how many cigarettes you're smoking. And then, and then it kind of gives you an indicator, and like, you're not supposed to be doing this.
And it tells you how many, like, in between your last cigarette.
Right. How long did you go in between? So, and then the Fitbit, of course, for the exercise, does your steps, and it connects with MyFitnessPal. There is another one out here that's not on here, but it's called a Pavlok. So, you know, there was that dog experiment years ago called Pavlov. Well, they have a Pavlok. It's you wear it around your wrist, and you monitor all these things like stress and sleep and eating and exercise. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, it shocks you. So, it's so I think that sounds, yeah.
So if you have heart arrhythmias, it just shocks you right back.
So, I mean, that's a little to the extreme, but it's only like $150 too. It's not bad. So. But I want to say one last thing before we get to questions, because there is a study that came out today that I thought was just, or it was reported on Medscape today that I think is super interesting. And it says that there was a study published on January 6th in Cancer Causes and Control, and it showed that eating a plant-based diet and limiting alcohol intake, both already included in various cancer prevention guidelines, could help cut the risk for obesity-related cancers, and which is about a third of all the cancers. There is also another study that came out that restricting alcohol consumption to 1 drink per day for women and 2 drinks for men was associated with a 29% reduced risk for obesity-related cancers, which I think is unfair. I don't know why men get 2 and women get 1, but that's what they say. And for individuals who consume starchy vegetables such as corn, potatoes, and yams, sufficient consumption of non-starchy legumes such as fruit and vegetables was also associated with a reduction in the risk for colorectal cancer. So there's so much evidence out there that really what we do eat, how we sleep, how much exercise, all of these are really truly related to cancers and health risks or health benefits if you do it right. And I know as a provider, I'm always telling my people, you need to exercise, you need to exercise. And I ask, do you smoke? How much alcohol? Do you exercise? And they always say, well, I have gained a few pounds. And I'm looking at them like, this is really not why I'm asking you this question. It is important. It's good for your bones, it's good for your heart, and more importantly, it is good for your brain. So it really does help. And it's not just that we're standing up here saying you need to do one more thing because you don't have enough to do today. So any questions that you all have? Thank you. Thank you. In your handout here, it's just a way to be active. It sounds like most of you already are doing all that. In the back is a last page that is a kind of a plan on how to be healthy and stay healthy. And it's just something that you can kind of make a copy of, you can make notes, and this is what I need to do. This is kind of my plan. So, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
You know, since it is the first of the year and we're all, you know, sitting here and really want to be healthy, what can we do to really kind of keep it going? What are your suggestions for that?
My suggestions are, and Trista may have different ones. One, you're making this a way of life. This is not this trend that I'm going to say, today I'm going to exercise and next week I'm not going to exercise. I personally like to exercise with people. I've exercised with people my whole life. Trista likes to exercise alone. So you kind of have to find that niche for you, what keeps you going back. I would never exercise by myself. And so if that's the case, if I ever lose the group I'm with now, I'm going to need to find a new group, go to the gym, 2 classes, things like that.
Accountability.
Accountability is important. As far as eating, I think we all are going to have those moments that you don't eat as well as you should, but I think planning ahead is certainly important. I think that even starting once a week and saying this is what I'm going to have during the week, if you go on Sunday and if you buy your groceries according to your meal plan, you're more likely to eat what you've set out to eat, instead of waiting until you're hungry and then all of a sudden, okay, I need to go grab something really quick because I'm starving.
I would think that surround yourself with a positive environment, because if you're in a negative environment, you're going to do the negative things, the negative influences, right? So if you are trying to quit smoking, you probably shouldn't hang out with a smoker, right? Same thing as if, I have a lot of people that come to me and, well, I have to give up my social life if I want to diet or if I want to lose weight. Well, that's not true, but do you have the willpower or the dedication to say no to those things when they're there? So our environment is very toxic at times, so making sure that you can prevent that.
And I also think your routines are very important. So, I think with most smokers that when they decide they're going to quit smoking, smoking is not something that you have to have so much as it's what you do every day. You get out of bed and you have your cigarette. You drink your coffee and you have your cigarette. It's what you do. So if there's some way of changing your routine, then that's the way, I recommend that will help with that. The other thing is I always tell all my patients, my dad was a 4-pack a day smoker. And that, if he would have had that quit bit thing, he would have been shocked all the time. So, at 4 packs a day, that means he was smoking a cigarette most all day long. So he had a heart attack at 54. When he left the hospital after 5 days, he never smoked again. That shows to me that anybody who decides bad enough that they want to quit, they can quit.
We were talking about the added sugars, but the other thing is also the salt.
Yep.
And especially hypertension, and how, I read this thing and said, okay, 1,040 milligrams of salt, okay, that's X amount of percentage of your quote-unquote daily intake. So how do you, you can take herbs, and I use herbs and vinegar and olive oil and so on and so forth, but there also comes the deal where everything really has salt. So how do you curb the salt intake?
You raise a good point about everything has salt in it. Well, everything that is not from the ground, that you caught yourself, or a natural source. Now, I'm not saying organic. I'm saying a natural source, plant-based, whatever. That's what you can control. Now, everything else you can't control.
Right.
I would just say, as far as the sodium is concerned, try to, usually like a lot of red meat has more sodium because they add more to it. So trying to stick with the lean poultry, you really can't control it if you're eating a lot of processed stuff.
Right.
Unfortunately, but like Miss Dash, their diet system for sodium intake is great and it's flavored, so you don't have to use salt.
Okay.
And salt is an acquired taste. Salt is not something you have to, have all the time. Now, for people who have been eating a lot of it, like her, it just has to have it. And I don't cook with salt. Like there's very little things I don't cook.
Yeah, but there still is supposed to be a certain percentage of salt.
Yes.
It's supposed to have.
Right.
Me
So
too.
what is a good, it's a spectrum again, it goes from here to there. Some people say 20 milligrams, other people say 23 milligrams, other people say God knows what. If you're going to go ahead and look at all this stuff,
I think it kind of depends
Yeah.
on your health as well.
okay.
So if you are on certain medicines or if you have high blood pressure, we tell people try to not have added salt. So if you have those kinds of problems, if you retain a lot of water, we say try to avoid your salt. If your kidneys are working well, if you don't have heart failure, most of the time the salt is going to be not harmful. It may not be great for you, but it's not going to be harmful.
Okay.
Also, if you drink plenty of water, you're usually washing a lot of that out.
Well, boy, those processed soups, they have just
Yeah,
tremendous amount of salt in them.
Right.
Salt, sugar.
Yeah, I've just gotten away from them
Yeah.
because
Right.
of that. But
That is kind of the whole thing. We should really just be getting away from the aisles that, in between aisles, and there are certain things you have to have, but everything really is on the outside.
Well, and that's the bad part is because, you see the, Progresso healthy food, the Campbell's healthy food, and
They
they turn
make-
the label around and you think,
Billions
Oh
of
my
dollars
God.
off of us. They make billions of dollars off of everyday people who fall into those scams.
And
Because that's what it is.
most of the time they taste terrible anyway. So you're going to end up adding salt because they are so bland. So The other healthier thing to do is not to buy canned vegetables and to buy regular, fresh produce or, and that's often hard to do, but that is, if you're worried about the sodium, that is the healthier thing to do.
Well, and the sugar too. all
And the
that
sugar
stuff.
as well.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you do, like I live alone, and so it's so hard to really want to prepare a fresh meal every day
Sure.
for me. You know.
I have a coworker who she prepares, and Trista does this a lot too. She prepares on Sunday what she's going to have for the week. So even if on Sunday you cooked a couple of meals and then you divided them up throughout the week, then that would be a way that and froze them, and that way you would still have fresh stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's,
So.
you can make your own soup, freeze it.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Yeah, and,
I do buy tomato soup.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
But that's
Tomato
the
soup
only
is hard to
soup.
make by yourself anyway.
Yeah.
But I will cook a bunch of chicken just so I can add it to salads. I can add it to soup. I can add it to anything that's fast and ready. I have a protein source, and I'm at least going to have that there for me. So that's how I do it. Thank you guys.
Thank you.